What's happening, everybody? This is Adi from Gate 7 International, tuning in with you guys for the much awaited deep dive. Now, this isn't the deep dive for Versalco. We haven't seen that signature yet, but this is the deep dive for a player that you guys have had a lot of fun with his name, and that's Gonzalo Avila Gordon, who all of you know as Pipa. Excited to get this deep dive going. The first one of the summer transfer window. Pumped to do it. Pumped to get back in the swing of things for these transfer rumors. And before we jump into the deep dive, gotta say, guys, don't forget. Hit that like and subscribe button at the bottom if you want to hear more of these deep dives as they come. If you want to be notified every time a show is about to happen, hit the bell at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Give us those likes, get us those follows, because the more we get, the more engagement, the better we do in the algorithm, the more red white fans we can reach and the bigger we can help make this community. Now that that's out of the way, guys, let's get moving. Gonzalo Avila Gordon. As you guys know, he's the new right back that signed. He is a backup. He has been signed as a backup. He will be the backup for Visalco, who is going to be arriving, as it's been reported by Dodeka and Nikos Kotsis, within the next 48 hours. So we will have a deep dive for him coming soon. But first, we're going to get Gonzalo Avila out of the way. Now, for those of you that may not have a lot of information about him or aren't too aware of where he spent a lot of his time, he is coming in from Huddersfield, 24-year-old Spanish right back. Now he's coming in at about 5 foot 9 inches, 175, 176 centimeters, 72 kilograms, 158 pounds is where he weighs in. So he's not the biggest character. Not not short. We're not going to say short by any means, but he's not super large. In terms of the player's actual profile, we're looking at a more offensive wing back here, not a traditional fullback. Not the most physical individual we've seen either. In terms of his defensive ability, the positioning's all right, but the defensive ability we can say is just above average. Solid overlapping volume we've seen it over the course of the film, moderate levels of aggression. And in what when we call solid overlapping volume, we're talking about at least half a dozen occasions per game, uh, compared to people like Omar or guys like Tsimikas who used to overlap close to a dozen times per game or more. That's what we compare to when we say solid level of overlapping ability. In terms of his dribbling ability, he's got some flair. He has a little bit of technique to him. I classified as above average dribbling ability. Uh, and he shows a willingness to get forward. This is something that we were sorely lacking with our fullbacks last season. An ability to progress the ball forward. He has a habit of wandering centrally. It wasn't super consistent. I didn't see it happen every game. I believe in the games that it did occur, the game against Nottingham Forest and some of the other games, it was instructional, as since when Huddersfield tended to go down in those games, we saw him kind of pushing inward to get on the ball more. So I believe that was instructional. I don't think that's a habit we're going to see while he's playing at Olympiacos. In terms of his downfield upside, it's very moderate. You get the occasional through ball or long ball, but he doesn't really have too much of that long pass accuracy, and he doesn't consistently see those runs downfield. So don't expect a long playmaker or a guy that's going to be really capitalizing on some of these opportunities on runs in and behind the defenders. Didn't see that much in the film, and he's probably not going to do it. Not especially not at the level like a guy like Kenny Lala could do. But overall, solid pass accuracy and can maintain possession well. So this is going to be Gonzalo Avila's general profile. Not so much in Omar, closer to Omar than what we've had in the past with his ability to overlap. Decent when it comes to his overall defensive ability. And we're going to get into some specifics here. I told you guys I was going to have something a little bit different for you this time. And the difference is going to be in some of the data that we have here. So right here, I have put together a list of stats, and I decided to compare Gonzalo Avila to the incoming Sime Vrsaljko. Those of you that are aware of Vrsaljko know where he came from, Atletico Madrid. You guys are very, very much aware of his quality. That I know. So, with that in mind, and with in mind the quality that Vrsaljko has, I wanted you guys to take a look at how Gonzalo Avila compares to him. How does he match up? Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at here are just some general goal creation stats. So, as you can see here, Vrsaljko, who is in the lighter teal color, he's got overall a larger, or we'll just say a more efficient end product here. He has higher XG, more goals, more, well, like we said, more overall end product. Where Gonzalo Avila edges out over him is the in terms of the actual number of shots and marginally in terms of shot assists or opportunities that he creates for his teammates. So going into that a little bit more, the goal threat from Gonzalo Avila is not coming off of set pieces. He is getting shots off. He gets shot assists off and creates opportunities for his teammates. But the context is specific. And when I mean specific, it's like I said, he's not really getting his shots aren't coming off of set pieces. He's not getting in the box, getting physical with a defender and trying to get headers off. No. In fact, he's quite poor in the air. So that probably wouldn't work out too well for him anyway. Every single shot that this guy had, every single XG threat that he had came off of a shot from distance. This guy is very comfortable when he gets the ball in and around the edge of the penalty box, just taking a shot. His shots have some considerable power behind them too, although they're not usually that accurate. But we do like to see that they're, and it's when I say they're not accurate, I'm not saying he's killing birds like some of our players do. They're just kind of going across just off the side of the bar. Maybe they're hitting the bar themselves. When it comes to his shot assist creation or assist creation opportunities he creates for his teammates, they're primarily crosses or passes into the penalty area from that right side. I saw very few incidences of creation where it wasn't one of those two things. He had a couple games where he would try and chip a defender for somebody to run on and make a shot. A couple instances where he would try to just take a defender on maybe and just do a cheeky little pass. But I didn't see a lot of runs even to the byline or to the end line to do a pass backwards into the box that we see a lot of times with fullbacks. I didn't see a lot of that. So that's kind of about what we're gonna get with him in terms of what his real goal threat is. Now, obviously, besides goal threat, we are concerned about some other things when it comes to what the fullbacks can bring to the table, and that's possession. So again, comparing to Sime Vrsaljko, I have put Gonzalo Avila next to him with regards to his possession stats. And once again, the findings are very, very interesting. In the dark red, you have Gonzalo Avila, and then in the lighter red, you have Vrsaljko. And what you see here is Vrsaljko has a much higher volume of passes, receives the ball a little bit more. He is doing a little bit more with the ball. Vrsaljko doesn't quite have as good of a pass completion. His pass accuracy is a little bit lower than Gonzalo Avila. And for many different reasons, I'll get into much more of the context with Vrsaljko when I do his deep dive. But for now, we're going to focus on Gonzalo Avila. And what you see here is, although the volume with Gonzalo Avila is not as high as with a player like Vrsaljko, what we do see, besides, of course, his better pass accuracy, is a higher number of progressive passes and a higher number of progressive passive passes received. So what this means is not only are a lot more of Gonzalo Avila's passes actually giving us a lot of, or I should say, more meaningful action forward, but he's also receiving progressive passes forward. And that means that he is getting forward and making meaningful strides for us in through the field towards the final third because of his runs. And that's indicative of the fact that he overlaps more. He is a wingback, like I mentioned to you guys. So again, going a little bit deeper into this when I bring up some of these stats in terms of his passing, possession, and buildup, Avila is going to be more likely to make these overlapping runs. So for Greece, this is going to be very good when we're trying to crack the buses of some of these teams. We need these fullbacks to become appendages of our offense. We need them to get forward and become part of this to help drag defenders to them. That's what we need. I brought up earlier when I was talking about his player profile that he has a solid dribbling ability. He's got flair. He's not averse to a step over, along with some other tools in that kit. There's a lot of things he can do. He's not the quickest guy, but he can change pace moderately well. He's got a decent level of agility. In terms of his dribble success, it was under 50%, about 44% last season in the championship. And part of the reason for a lot of those lost duels, the vast majority of them was due to his lack of physicality. The second he would try to beat a player and then get caught in a physical tussle with them, he tended to lose them more often than not. So that was a large reason for some of that. And when it comes to buildup, he's not a key figure in buildup. Again, I'm going to reference this progressive passes and his receipt, the number of times he receives progressive passes. He's not the guy. He's not the key figure in our possession and buildup going towards the final third. This isn't Rafinha. Okay. And you can see that Vrsalko's a little closer to that Rafinha style. Not Gonzalo Avila. That's not what he does. He's the guy that will overlap. He will present himself as the outlet. That's how it's going to be working out for him. And most of his progressive passes, most of his meaningful actions forward are going to start from the defensive third of his team. So he's not going to be the one that's generating that forward momentum. He's the one that's capitalizing it by making those runs and presenting himself as that option. So like I said, none of this is a bad thing. I don't want any of this to come off as a bad thing. He is just like he's a wing back. He's much more like an offensive fullback that will be very helpful for us breaking down defenses in the Greek Super League. And lastly, the last section, of course, we wanted to get into is his defensive ability. Now, once again, here I have a little table presenting some of the defensive statistics. Now, you guys all know coming into this, when we're talking about Vrsalko is a defensive animal. We know that at Atletico Madrid. Simeone loves him for a reason. This guy is all over the place. So it shouldn't surprise any of you that most of his defensive statistics, especially his ability in the air, is by far and away much better. But what I want you guys to focus on in particular is the pressures. Vrsalko has a very, very high number of pressures per game. He's one of the best in the top 5 leagues. If you measure him up against other defenders, fullbacks specifically in the top 5 leagues, he presses a lot. And that's part of the reason why Simeone likes him. And it fits well with that Atletico Madrid system. So to see that Pipa can do that as well, and that he is that aggressive and is willing to do that is huge for us. We like to press a lot, especially in Greece, and this is going to be fantastic when it comes to our full court press. So we love that. Now, again, going a little bit more specifically into this, I mentioned earlier before that Gonzalo Avila is not so good in the air. He's quite poor, actually, not very successful at all, and this should surprise none of you. Vrsalko is way better. He's also a bigger guy. So part of it has to do with the fact that he's not so big, but also part of it that his positioning in those situations is also, we'll say it does need some improvement, but I think with some strict guidance under Pedro Martins, we can get that fixed up. Additionally, as I noted, he's not hugely successful on the ground when the game begins to get physical, but in terms of his ground duels, he's over 60%, 62.5% in his ground duels, primarily because of his ability to anticipate offensive movement. It is quite remarkable. He's able to read the offense quite well, and he gets himself into decent positions to cut some passes out. He also is good at anticipating the movements of the person he is facing off with, the dribbler, the one that has the ball and is making the move against him. So his positioning is all right, and he's got pretty good reflexes. If somebody makes a turn, he's pretty quick to turn and chase them down. He doesn't jump too much. There were occasions where I saw him get caught by a sneaky dribble or a chip here and there, but most of the time it wasn't so bad. He didn't get caught out that bad or get fooled too many times. And this is with over 1,000 minutes of play, so it's not like we didn't have a decent sample size. He did, I will say, when it comes to open play, have a tendency to get caught a little bit forward in build up or especially on the counter. It didn't punish him as often as I expected. I thought there would be many more occasions where him getting forward, maybe him getting sucked too far central and forward would punish the team, but it didn't. I can't say whether or not that's a coincidence or whether that's his ability to read where the ball's going to be going or his gauge of maybe the player that he was defending. That's just something I noticed. And in regards to the player himself, I thought that that's something that I wanted to keep an eye on at the very least until while he's playing with us. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I think overall, when we're taking all of this information, there's a couple things we have to ask ourselves. Now that you guys know a little bit of what I've told you in terms of his ability, in terms of the player profile, is he an upgrade? Is this going to be an actual upgrade over Kenny Lala, Vrousai, or Androutsos? Now, remember, his role will be as a backup. Things can always change. If he plays very well, you never know what happens in the future. If Vrsaljko gets an injury, we need him to step up. So, is he an upgrade? The answer? Absolutely. Over the likes of Androutsos and Vrousai, 100%. Regardless of what you think about whether or not Vrousai got his chance, the guy is an upgrade over both of them, both in terms of his defensive ability and his ability to get forward. Is he an upgrade over Kenny Lala? In terms of his effort level and what he brings in terms of his aggression, absolutely. Kenny Lala was soulless on the field. Now, technique-wise, he may cross better than guys like Oleg. He may cross better than some guys on our team. But Kenny Lala was one of the most accurate passers we had and the most accurate crosser we had. Plus, Kenny Lala had a penchant for downfield through balls that were also quite accurate. He's not quite there. Doesn't have that level of technique in terms of his deeper passing. So, is he an upgrade over Kenny? Yes, in some respects. But Kenny never gave us the best anyway. So in the end, do I think this guy could be an upgrade over Kenny? If he shows half the effort I saw on the tape with Huddersfield, then I think he's an upgrade just in terms of that over Kenny Lala and some of his defensive ability. So there's your answer with regards to whether he's an upgrade or not. Now, lastly, as I like to do every time we do some of these deep dives, is discuss the value proposition. Is there value in this transfer? What are we paying for him? How risky is it? And the answer is some of the rumors have gone around that we could be paying about 500,000. This isn't confirmed, and things can always change, as you know. We may not actually ever get a real number, but from what we've heard, might be about a 500,000 euro transfer fee. At that amount of money for a backup, the risk level here, and for what we want, the risk level, I believe, here is moderate. And the reason I say that is because of the medical history of a guy like Vrsaljko. Vrsaljko, as it's being reported, within 48 hours will be here. And if you look at his injury history, this poor guy has gone through a lot. Looks like 2 knee surgeries, some back problems, some muscle problems. He's been out a lot. So with his history, I think it's pretty much a guarantee that we're going to lose him for about a month this year. I think that's a pretty safe bet. So with that in mind, can this guy pick up the slack? And the answer is, in Greece, I think he won't have a problem. In fact, I think he'll be an asset for us in Greece when it comes to dealing with some of these other teams. if he's going to be called upon in Europe, it's risky because I don't believe his defensive ability is quite there for a European game. I hope he proves me wrong, but some of the stuff I saw, especially in the air, I just keep thinking of set pieces where we get punished time and time and time again because we don't have people that always have the ability to get up. So those are the types of things that I think about with regard to this. Is it a risk in terms of, is this guy going to be a big flop? From what we've been hearing from some of the people we've discussed in the Huddersfield camp, no, he apparently has a great attitude. He trains very well. He trains very hard, and he's not a basket case. And this team right now can't afford to have basket cases in the locker room with everything that's been going on. So overall, moderate to you know what, I'll even say moderate to low moderate risk, in that somewhere in that territory. There is value here. At 24 years old, he's signing a 3-year contract. There's so much that can happen. We're getting him at a good time. This is for a backup. This is exactly what we want. And assuming we do sign Vrousaiko, I think our right back position is already leaps and bounds better than it has been for the last 2 years. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the deep dive. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, if you want to listen to more of these deep dives, you want to be notified when more of them are coming, because they will, guys. There's a flurry of things coming, a flurry of transfers coming for different positions. You want to be notified. Hit that bell at the bottom right hand of your screen. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we'll be back again, Gate 7 International, by the fans, for the fans, with more deep dives, helping you understand what is coming to Olympiacos and how it can help Olympiacos for the season. So until next time, guys, I'm Adi. This is Gate 7 International, and I'll see you next time.